Good morning, everyone. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Thank you so much for joining us for our webinar today as we commemorate International World Bee Day. We'd like to thank everyone who's joining us today, and thank you to all the partners that came together to host this very important day. We are going to begin our session today with opening remarks from Shamiso Winet Mopara. Shamiso, if you can hear me.
A very good day to you all. Let me first by welcoming you here today for the World Bee Day Zimbabwe 2022. My name is Shamiso Winet Mopara, the Executive Director for Environmental Buddies Zimbabwe. I appreciate all our partners for making this day a possibility. They include Network for Social Change, Sweet Mongwe Honey, Green Hat, Harare Institute of Technology, Bees Honey Company, African Youth Initiative for Climate Change, Forestry Commission, Ministry of Environment, Tourism and Hospitality Industry, Zivai Community Empowerment Trust, and also our technical partners, Daily News. Today is 20 May, World Bee Day. World Bee Day is an international date recognized by the United Nations, and it's celebrated every year on May 20th. The chosen date is Anton Jensen's birthday, May 20, 1734, a pioneer of the beekeeping industry that deals with bee breeding and honey production. He did immense personal studies on bees, hives, hive activities, and hive dwellers. He went on to write several books on apiculture. Jansa was born in Slovenia in the 18th century and was the world's first beekeeping teacher. World Bee Day is a day commemorated around the globe to raise awareness about the threats and the need to protect pollinators such as beetles, bees, birds, and butterflies. In December 2017, United Nations approved this day, and the first World Bee Day was celebrated on Sunday, 20 May 2018. The purpose of the day is to acknowledge the role of bees and other pollinators for the ecosystem. World Bee Day also helps to raise awareness of bees and other pollinators for food security. Bees play a vital role in feeding us all. They help pollinate the crops we eat and many that are eaten by livestock. World Bee Day is not just observed or celebrated. Owing to different reasons, bees are endangered, including habitat loss, pesticides, and other anthropogenic causes. Declining number of different species of bees have been noticed around the world, which means that there is a real risk to food security and livelihoods. In addition, this has significant implications on world biodiversity and ecosystem health. World Bee Day also raises awareness on research and development activities that address the national and global threats and opportunities to bees. The theme for this year, Be Engaged, Build Back Better for Bees, is a well-placed theme which is meant to focus on the threats of protection posed by COVID-19 to bees and other pollinators. While global trends are showing declining bee and pollinator populations, the real question is, what is the state of bees and other pollinators in Zimbabwe? Invited panelists from institutions of higher learning, beekeeping industry, agriculture sector, and international organizations will shed more light into the state of pollinators in Zimbabwe. Thank you once again. Welcome. Back to you, Cindy.
Thank you so much, Shamiso, for that wonderful history about World Bee Day. Personally, I'm really looking forward to an engaging discussion. As you already saw our topic, Be Engaged. So I'm definitely looking forward to being engaged and to learn more about World Bee Day and the associated issues from our panel of experts that we have today. So, okay. Our next speaker is Jacqueline. Miss Jacqueline Gowe is the founder and CEO of Sweet Maungwe Honey. She's the Sweet the Sweet Maungwe company name is derived from Miss Gowe's tribe, well known for its sweet tooth and cative. Okay, as I was saying, Miss Jacqueline Gowe is the founder and CEO of Sweet Maungwe Honey. The Sweet Maungwe company name is derived from Miss Gowe's tribe, well known for its sweet tooth and love for sophisticated things, providing your body with natural nutrients and a luscious taste for your taste buds. Sweet Maungwe is a role model in the agricultural sector, and it trains small-scale farmers in beekeeping, value addition of honey and byproducts, which are wax, propolis. Currently, the company has 15 value-added products such as floor polish, shoe polish, hand creams, guava strips, candles, honey strips with ginger, just to name a few. Miss Gowe is a very passionate beekeeper and has been instrumental in the formulation of the Zimbabwe Apiculture Platform, which she chairs and has been mandated by the government to be the lead organization in apiculture sector. She is also the executive committee member for the bee project at the African Union Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources. Ms. Gowe is a firm believer of women empowerment and a true self-made entrepreneur, and her aspirations is to be the lead honey setter in the African continent, and she is indeed the queen of the hive. Ms. Gowe, I would like to thank you so much for joining us today. From your experience in the agricultural sector, what is the dollar value of pollination to security in Zimbabwe? Over to you, Ms. Gowe.
Thank you very much, Cinderella. I think I did submit a PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if you want us to go through that.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much for your invitation to your webinar. I'm indeed honored to be part of this, and happy World Bee Day to everyone. The first question I'm supposed to respond to says, the agriculture sector uses a lot of chemicals and pesticides in crop production. What is the contribution of the honeybee pollination service to agriculture and production in Zimbabwe? So I first looked at the SDGs in terms of agriculture. Maybe we need to go back to the beginning. You've gone to...
Ms. Gowe, are you able to share the slides from your end, maybe?
I thought I'll call my presentation Pollination Services in Zimbabwe. Bees have an active role to play in the SDGs, as indicated earlier on from Shamiso's presentation. Bees have a direct impact on our food quality and quantity production. They also play a very crucial role in our nutrition in terms of the honey that they produce and the byproducts which are used in medicinal and pharmaceutical products. They also have a role to play in forestry conservation and other economic opportunities, which include promotion of jobs for the youth and women in our rural communities, as well as in industry. The current status of pollination in Zimbabwe doesn't have sufficient data for us to discuss. Hence my presentation, most of the data I've given is based on figures that are for global pollination services. So in Zimbabwe, currently pollination services is being offered to fruits and nut farming production. These farmers have adopted very good bee-friendly chemicals and commercial pest management services, which has helped in the pollination services offered by quite a small number of beekeepers in Zimbabwe, though this has a huge potential of growing as a service provision for the agriculture sector. The value of crop pollination in Zimbabwe, I have been in communication with government, and currently we do not have any statistical value to how much the pollination services in Zimbabwe, in terms of monetary value, is contributing to agriculture. However, globally, it's worth over hundreds of millions of dollars. Zimbabwe is exporting over 100 million worth of food, which has benefited from pollinators, but we do not have a figure that we can attach to the pollination services per se. Globally, the value of food produced that is directly benefiting from pollination is between 235 and 577 billion US dollars. In the US alone, bees contribute more than 24 billion to that economy. Hence, this becomes a very viable initiative should our government embrace it as a sector on its own. So how can we make agriculture sustainable using bees? There's definitely a need for awareness on the use of pesticides, herbicides, and so forth. We need to stop deforestation, which is a huge problem in the country currently. We need to physically increase planting of pollinate and bee-friendly flowers and trees in order to improve the pollinators' foraging plants. I thought just to end my presentation, I would share some fun facts about bees. The reason why bees are so noisy is because they beat their wings 11,400 times in a minute. Honeybees communicate by a dance. Honey is the only food made by an insect and eaten by both the insect itself and humans. A bee produces 5 grams of honey in its lifetime. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share. Happy World Bee Day to you all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Goe, for that informative presentation. I think it's quite interesting, the fact that you mentioned how we don't necessarily have data, national statistics that can give us a reflection of how much exactly the bee industry is contributing to the agricultural sector. But I think the statistics that you gave us from a global point of view gives us an idea of the incredible contribution of bees to the industrial sector. So just as a follow-up question, Ms. Goe, the agricultural sector world over uses a lot of chemicals, your fertilizers, your pesticides, and the likes. So the synthetic fertilizers the synthetic chemicals rather have been dubbed as an enemy to bees. Would you say that is the case also in Zimbabwe? Is it true for the Zimbabwean agricultural sector to say that the chemicals and the herbicides that we are using affecting our bees in a negative way?
Yes, it is true. There are efforts by some farmers. For instance, I'm personally involved with a couple of farmers doing pollination of fruits. There has been a conscious effort to try and change the chemicals that they use. Hence, you'll find most of them now use the correct chemicals that are bee-friendly. Though it's taken time, but I think Zimbabwe is on a good path, and more awareness is needed to our commercial farmers on the importance of preservations of bees.
Thank you so much for that. I think all the environmentalists in the house are taking note of the need to create awareness on the kinds of chemicals and the kinds of fertilizers that we are using in our agricultural sector, because we really need to also consider how it's affecting our ecosystem and how it's affecting things such as bees, which are very important components of our ecosystem in terms of also the ecosystem services that they provide. Thank you so much, Ms. Goe, for that. Up next is Lavenda Madindi. Lavenda is an environmental professional with a passion for environmental issues with more than 4 years of experience in the environment sector. She's working with AMNIC as an environmental collaborator. Lavender, if you can hear me, I don't know if Lavender is here. She's not here. Okay. I'm sure she will be joining us, or she's trying to join us. I think I'll now. Oh, you can. Yeah, here. Thank you so much, Lavender. I was saying, in terms of what we've been talking about, people are raving about bees as pollinators, but I would like to find out from you the fact that we also have other pollinators known as unusual pollinators. Which are those pollinators?
All right. Thank you so much for giving me this time to present. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. It's my honor to be here. Okay, so I'm going to talk about unusual pollinators. Okay, so these pollinators, they are pollinators that does the same role as bees, but they're less spoken of. And we can also call them unsung heroes of pollination. So it's very important to have a diversity of pollinators in an environment, because in a natural ecosystem, pollinator diversity enhances pollination during environmental and climate perturbations. That is also like alleviating pollen limitation, and also in agriculture, it increases the quality and quantity of crop yield. So I'm going to be talking about agents of pollination. Pollination on its own, it's a process that occurs in two forms. We have the abiotic and the biotic pollination. The abiotic pollination, it happens due to a non-living organism, whereas the biotic pollination is carried out by living organisms. So I'm going to talk about insect pollination. Insect pollination, we're talking about the bees. The bees are the most spoken of pollinators, and they contribute almost 80%, pollination worldwide. So bees are the most common and recognized insect pollinators. Flowers contain nectar, a staple bee diet. The pollination by bees are butterflies. Most flies is also known as the hymenopterotic pollination. And okay, and I'm also going to talk about the bird pollination. The bird. We know that some birds, especially the hummingbirds, pollinate plants. These hummingbirds, they are also found here in Zimbabwe and also in Southern Africa. Birds they are usually attracted to bright colors like red, yellow. Those colors, the bright colors, they're the colors that attract birds. And also flowers that are pollinated by birds are long, tubular with nectar and steady enough for perching on. I'm going to talk about animal pollination. We've got nocturnal animals like birds. They are pollinators. Nocturnal animals, they are those animals that are active during the night. It's rare to see them during the day, so they are very active at night. The flowers that are attract birds need to have a very strong fragrance and may not be colorful as well. And we've got the wind and water pollination. The wind and water pollination, the wind pollinates many plants and flowers that have stamina and pistils are also pollinated by the wind. Pollen is carried by the wind. Pollens that are carried by the wind are light, and the pollens carried by the animals. The plants and flowers that thrive in water are pollinated by water. I also have a diagram here that talk about self-pollination and cross-pollination. I'm sure I can share, like you're sharing the screen, you can see like what will happen. Pollination is self-pollination is pollination that occurs within the same flower. I think you can, the diagram also, it illustrates how this happens. And then also there's cross-pollination, whereby pollination happens from one flower to the other. It's shared in the diagram. All right, thank you. So I'm going to move to to the types of flowers and the odors and the shape that are attracted by different pollinators. So the flower type, color, odor, shape, nectar, and structure, they vary by the type of pollinator that visits them. Such characteristics are called pollination syndromes, and they can also be used to predict the type of pollinator that will aid the flower in successful reproduction. Pollinators are very important because they sustain our ecosystems, like I've said before, and they produce our natural resources by helping plants reproduce and produce our natural resources by helping plants reproduce. And without them, the human race and all the Earth's terrestrial ecosystems would not survive. It would not survive. And yeah, of course, insects, they are the most common type of pollinators, especially bees, So below, there is a diagram that I have that explains the pollinator syndrome that I was talking about. So here, we've got a table that shows the traits as in the color, the traits represents the color, the nectar guides, or the odor, the nectar, pollen, and the flower shape. So here in blue, you can see we've got the bats, we've got the bees, we've got the beetles, we've got the birds. So for birds, the color that attracts birds, they are dull, white, green, or purple flowers that attract the birds. And also for the bees, they attract the bright white, yellow, blue, or the UV. And the beetles, they attract the dull white or green. The birds, they attract the scarlet, orange, red, or white. So this whole diagram, it actually explains the type of color, the type of flower, and the odor, everything that each and every pollinator is attracted to. And it makes it easy to understand the type of flowers that are pollinated by each and every type of pollinator. And also we also have another table here that is flies, the moths, and wind. You can see that the butterflies they attract bright, including red and purple, and the flies they attract pale and dull to dark brown or purple, flecked with translucent patches. The moths, they attract the pale and dull red, purple, pink, or white flowers. And also the wind attracts dull green, brown, or colorless petals, absent or reduced. And for butterflies, when talking about these colors, the nectar is present, but for flies, it's absent. For moths and for the wind, the odor for butterflies is faint but fresh. And also for the flies, the nectar usually is absent, and so forth. So I'm also going to move on to the next slide, which you've got a diagram, a colorful diagram that shows almost all pollinators, these unsung heroes that we talk of. You see, it's a combination of different pollinators. You see there's the bat there, you see there's a butterfly, you see we've got a bird there, of course there's a bee, we've got the rodents, that the rodent that is there. So in this picture, it's just showing all other pollinators that also take place. Like what I've said, these are called the unsung heroes. We know, like most of the time we talk of the bee, every time he's talking about the bee, but this is just a great picture that is talking about all other pollinators. So I'm going to be showing you, we can move to the next slide, about each and every bird, each and every pollinator that we have. The hummingbirds, these are very common here in Zimbabwe. We see this bird and also this flower. I'm sure we can all relate to this type of flower that we're seeing here. So these pollinators, they're very common here in Zimbabwe and also in Southern Africa as a whole. So the hummingbirds visit and pollinate plants that have a tubular red, yellow, or orange flowers. They thrust their long, slender bills deep into the flower for nectar, withdrawing heads dusted with pollen. I'm sure you can see. It's very easy to understand, as you can also see here in the picture. And we're going to be moving on to the next slide, talking about the bat. Did you know? I'm sure most people, they just see it passing by like, during the night, but really don't see how it is. Yeah, there it is. That's the bat. It's a nocturnal animal. Okay, so after dark, moths and birds take over the night, visiting nocturnal blooms heavy with fragrance and large amounts of dilute nectar. This is what happens. Yeah, so this is the bat, and you can actually see what it is doing, and it's during the night. Very active during the night. All right, so we're gonna moving to the butterfly. Can move on to the butterfly. If you can actually remember, or we can actually talk about butterflies. Have you seen that these days we no longer see a lot of butterflies than the way we used to see it like long time ago? Can you say they are going extinct or what? Anyway, I'm sure some of my colleagues here, they're going to be sharing about that. So butterflies, they're highly praised on their long thin legs. Butterflies are not efficient pollinators. Butterflies select flowers based on shape, and like bees that can hover while feeding. Butterflies need a place to land because they cannot feed whilst flying. Oh, that is very interesting. Characteristics of each and every pollinator. So yeah, this is the butterfly we've got here. It's a very colorful flower. You know, that attracts the butterfly on its own. All right, so we're gonna move on to the beetle. Unfortunately, I've only shared one picture, but I wanted to share two pictures here. Beetle. I mean, I don't know, like where we come from. We've got different names of this insects, you know. So beetle, they co-evolved with primitive flowering trees such as magnolia. Beetle-pollinated flowers are fragrant, large, and bowl-shaped. The shape makes it easy for the clumsy flying beetle to land within the flower, where they eat their way through petals and other floral parts. They even defecate within flowers, earning them the nickname mason soil pollinators. Because like beetles akawanda, you know, the dung, the dung. So this is where the name mason soil pollinators comes from. This is the beetle, and you can see it attracts this type of flower, which is it's a mixture of a dull and a bright color. All right, so I'm going to move on to I'm not going to say much here on this kind of flower, or on this kind of an insect. These flower flies. Flower flies such as hover flies masquerade as bees and wasps, but they only have one pair of wings. Their putrid smelling blossom are an adaptation that attracts certain fly pollinators, even you know, mosquitoes. They get in on the eggs since they pollinate certain orchids. So I'm going to move on to the lizards. Lizards are very important pollinators, and in some cases they replace birds and insects when pollinating trees like baobabs in Zimbabwe and a whole lot others. So tisazotiti chona insects are all over, you know, vamwane tendencies of kuraya, you know, what like people end up hurting these things. They're very important part of our ecosystems. We coexist, you know, like we are intertwined because they assist us in our everyday life. So these unsung heroes of pollination, they are very, very important, as you can see. You know, vana vanotamba katongona butterfly yakuridzingirira autoritswanya, you know, vatokanganisa part of the whole ecosystem inenge ichiitika. So they are equally important as humans because we need them. So in Zimbabwe, land use changes, especially urbanization, has altered habitats, you know, resulting in rapid loss of forests. Around 312,000 of hectares per year between 2010 and 2015, which has also resulted which has also resulted in substantial decline and the extinction of these important non-bee pollinators. Like I was saying, now it's rare for us to see as many insects, as many pollinators, like I've talked about. It's rare to see them now. They are going extinct. So insect pollination is very crucial for domestic and wild fruit trees, cash crops like cotton and other food plants. They making them even more important for sustaining food and medicines for most rural communities that depend on them, even us here in the urban settlements. So this is my presentation that I had for today, and thank you so much for taking your time to listen. Thank you so much. Over to you, Cinderella. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lavender, for that presentation. I think it was really informative, and it has really helped in demystifying the fact that we always think of pollinators as bees only, but you really highlighted how the different kinds of pollinators, the unsung heroes, as you said, and there's really need for us to take heed of how we are interacting with our ecosystem so that we are able to maintain all these wonderful pollinators that are doing invaluable work in terms of pollination, which is also crucial, especially for our food systems as well. Our next speaker, I think we can move on to Mr. Patson Makwiramiti. Are you there, sir?
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a quick bio of Mr. Patson Makwiramiti is a passionate and dedicated development practitioner working with Sapphire as Natural Resources Management Coordinator. Previously, Patson was a technical manager for Natural Resources Management and Disaster Risk Reduction with World Vision International, Lead Zimbabwe, responsible for technical backstopping to partners and project staff. For over 13 years, he was involved in food security, resilience, natural resources management programs. Patson is passionate about leadership and sustainability in efforts to make an impact and be part of the process that brings change to community lives and makes the world a better place. Mr. Patson, I think from your bio, we've noted that you've been very involved with international organizations working in Zimbabwe for over a decade now. So those partners are vital in strengthening the domestic resource mobilization and for supporting developing countries and to improve their livelihoods. Take, for instance, SDG 17. So according to your experience, what has been the social, economic, and environmental impact or significance of your support in beekeeping and pollinator conservation to Zimbabwean communities?
Okay, thank you. Yes, certainly these partnerships are important in terms of mobilizing resources to support projects and initiatives that conserves the bee pollinator species and also supporting community livelihoods. So this is linked to the SDG 17, yes, which is a UN agenda which aims to strengthen the means to support implementation and to revitalize global partnerships. So which means the partnerships are at various levels, international, local, regional, and so forth. So in my experience, working with the various organizations, particularly in regard to beekeeping, we have seen the need to support beekeeping in terms of material resources, in terms of capacity development, and looking at the social, economic, and environmental side of things, I would say that it is important because beekeeping is one of the green alternatives to support household income generation in Zimbabwe. Looking at the climate change issues that are topical, and with the bee population that we currently have, that is around 85,000, and also the capacity gaps that we have as a nation to produce honey, because we have a potential of producing close to 427 tons, but we are currently producing around 70 tons annually. So we've been supporting a number of projects and beekeeping initiatives across the country, and through various projects funded by international agencies, embassies, implemented by NGOs and government support. So looking at the social side, we've been able to develop the human resource in terms of training and capacity building, where most of the beekeepers or farmers, aspiring beekeepers, are organized into groups, and then they get training. And in terms of group organization, there's been a number of associations that have been formed at various levels: district level associations, national level associations, and I think we have the Beekeepers Association of Zimbabwe, we have Mtoko Beekeepers Association, and many other associations. And working with the government departments such as Forest Commission and other extension departments, we have been able to support the bee farmer field schools approach, where we train farmers using the farmer extension model, and also farmers have been exposed to learning and exposure visits at various levels. I remember at one point I went to Zambia on a Southern Africa regional learning forum with the chairperson from Mtoko Beekeepers Association. So all this support has been coming through the international organizations supporting the apiculture subsector in Zimbabwe. I can also talk about women and youth empowerment. I think we have approximately 16,000 beekeepers, and from this number, this is male dominated. More than 85% of these beekeepers are men, meaning that there's less women and youth participation, but mainly we have projects now that are promoting women participation in beekeeping, and also to remove the previous views and demystify the fears where beekeeping was soon to be a male domain. So with most of these projects, we are supporting improved technology such as Kenyan Toba hives, Langstroth, and mainly the Kenyan Toba hive is easy to use, easy to manage, installation and inspect. So women are slowly getting on board and are also participating in beekeeping activities. And in addition, there's also collective power, where group organization is also supporting women and youth to informally complement each other, and also complement the informal training where they help each other as they practice beekeeping in the field. In terms of economic benefits, yes, beekeeping is known to produce or to contribute towards household income, and even the national and regional or even international demand for honey. Actually, we are failing to meet the market demands for honey. So there is a potential for economic benefits that comes to the household, and where there have been processing centers established, there is also local employment for youth and women that has also been opened up with support that is coming from these international organizations and NGOs supporting beekeeping projects. There's also a support in terms of innovation and technology, where a number of areas were supported with state-of-the-art processing equipment and also construction of processing centers. I can just name a few, like Chapanduka in Buera, that was done by Safa and Oxfam, Bumba in Chimanimani, Chingondo in Wedza, that was done by Environment Africa. I think along the Mashingo Mtare Highway, there's the Nyanyazi honey processing center that is run by Tsuro Trust, and the many other processing centers that has been established throughout the country. In addition, bees are a pollinator species, and they also provide pollinator services, which is also a potential household income contributor. And in Nyanga, for example, we have pollination services that are being rendered to the stony fruits, that is the Nyanga district. And this is a potential income stream for households as well. We are also supporting trade, looking at strengthening market linkages for honey, linking the farmers with the formal and informal markets, and also capacity building in terms of business management, processing, and also meeting the different market requirements and standards in terms of quality and in terms of packaging, labeling, and other key requirements. And that also speaks to a certification of honey and hive products, particularly to meet export markets, particularly the European Union market. I think there have been some projects that are also supporting in all these areas. And even in terms of research, there's been a number of research, action learning, and also research that supports the value chain and market development for the honey and the hive products value chain in Zimbabwe. And a number of lessons can also be drawn from the several impact evaluations of the projects that has been implemented over the last decade or even many years in the past, where farmers have been practicing beekeeping, and they have been exposed to different lessons and learnings that can also enhance further beekeeping practice in Zimbabwe. Let me talk about the impacts on environmental conservation. Beekeeping as a practice itself is climate sensitive. It's vulnerable to drought, where there is less water, there is less productivity. Where there's more water, there is also limited productivity. Both extremes will affect bee productivity. So this means that the farmers themselves need to be aware of the ecosystem requirements for honey production, which means that through these project activities, the farmers are in a position to understand the importance of bee dependence on natural flowers, and also how to manage the ecosystems and the environment which they are harvesting the honey. Also, projects are also supporting Kenyan top hives and Langstroth, and also providing trainings in terms of sustainable harvesting practice, and also use of improved equipment for honey processing and for honey harvesting. And this also have a positive bearing in terms of environmental conservation, where we limit the use of traditional hives, which require felling of huge trees such that they'll be able to have log hives. So this practice of beekeeping is also providing an incentive for conservation of local forests, woodlands, and also managing of wildfires. Once the communities realize the benefits in terms of income and other ecosystem services, they are then also motivated to manage their environment and even to plant trees and establish community woodlands and orchards in a bid to increase the floral abundance for the bees to have access to pollen and nectar. So you see, in a community where an apiary is established, with or without a physical fence, that area is already demarcated as a protected area. So that's a positive in terms of environmental conservation. And all this is being done with support that is coming from the international organizations, that is in partnership with the government, technical departments in terms of implementing apiculture and beekeeping projects in Zimbabwe. So just to conclude, I would say yes, partnerships are vital, and the apiculture subsector in Zimbabwe will require resources to be mobilized for it to grow, and also that the nation will be able to close the capacity gaps that we have currently in terms of the annual honey production to meet the current market demand across all levels, national, regional, and international. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful presentation. I think my biggest takeaway was the gaps that you highlighted in terms of the apiculture industry and how it is male dominated. So to the environmental practitioners in the house, I think it's something that we need to take up to also ensure that we are also involving women and the youth in apiculture, because we've extensively discussed the benefits to our livelihoods, to the economy, to our food systems and the likes. And I think it's really important that we try to be as inclusive as possible in the different trainings that are happening with regards to agriculture as well. I have a few comments in the chat. Someone is saying we are a women's group and need to establish a processing center for our bee project. We also need education on value addition and byproducts. Value addition. I think perhaps maybe Madam Jacqueline, you can share your contact details for the women groups that might be able to get assistance from you. We also have another comment from Buda. She's saying she's interested to get the locations where processing plants have been set up. My company, Anaya Honey, takes honey from beekeepers. To any one of the panelists, maybe if you can kindly assist, where are the processing plants located, and if you can tell us where are these plants for the sake of those that are interested, like Guda. Please
Okay,
go
thank
ahead.
you. I think.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say, yeah, she can get in touch, or you can link her up. I can just post my details there. I can also assist in terms of showing you some of the processing centers.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. We are also encouraging those with questions to feel free to post their questions in the chat. I also have a couple of questions that I'm directing to any one of the panelists that would like to take on the question. My first question would be, if pollinators were to disappear, what would be the effect on food security?
Shall I take that, Cinderella?
Yes, please.
Okay. We would have quite a challenge in terms of food production because almost 90% of our food is pollinated by one insect or the other. So we'll definitely see a decrease in food production.
Yeah, I think that's something that you also need to really think about a lot in terms of how then, or rather, what are the actions on the ground that we should take in order to make sure that we protect all the pollinators that we have, because like you said, 90% is a lot, and that would mean we will not be able to sustain our food demands as a planet. So that's really something that we need to really think about as environmentalists and in the different spaces that we are working in. Those that also want to ask their questions in person, feel free to raise your hand and ask your question. I see Mr. Evans is back online. Mr. Evans, can you hear me? Mr. Evans, can you hear me? Another question that I have is, what is the value of bees and the hive products to the pharmaceutical industry? Because I know that honey itself also is considered a remedy, or it has healing abilities to particular ailments. So I want to find out from the panelists, do we know the actual value that bees and the associated honey products contribute to the pharmaceutical industry?
Yes. Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's Professor Gundiza here. I think I can take that question.
Thank you, sir. You can go ahead.
Yes. A lot of products these days are actually formulated using honey, like your cough mixtures. It will be difficult to formulate them, and a lot of them, like beeswax, is used in many pharmaceutical products, like lotions, creams targeted at various types of skin diseases. And if you look at the uses of propolis, for instance, it has got so many uses these days, immune boosting and the like, and even in some anti-inflammatory formulations. So all these plethora of pharmaceutical products formulations will be affected. So a lot of pharmaceutical products are formulated using bee products such as beeswax, oil jelly, propolis, pollen, honey itself. So there will be definitely an impact if we don't get enough honey or honey, other honey products. Answer.
Thank you so much, Professor, for that answer. I'm definitely satisfied with that. As a follow-up question, I just want to find out again, because of the COVID pandemic, we know that a lot of things were affected in different ways. How was the beekeeping industry affected, and how can we build back better?
Well, the beekeeping industry was affected, one, through lack of care of the hives, because people couldn't go out there because of the lockdowns in some areas. And as you know, you will need to look after the bees in various ways, such as protecting the area where the bees are located from veld fire. And if that happened, and in some cases it did happen, nobody could put off the fire. I had a very serious experience myself when we couldn't go out to put out the fire, and a number of my bee hives were burnt down. So, and of course, we used to formulate some product to treat COVID-19 using honey, and there was no enough honey supply, or I couldn't go out there to harvest the honey. So there was, and there may be in future again, if there's another wave of COVID-19, some effect on formulating this product if we don't have enough beehive, and we get our bee products from rural areas, far away from centers like Harare, and we couldn't go there to get the honey to make this product. So there was serious effect during that upset peak. Okay, are you answered?
Yes, thank you so much, Professor. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much for that. We also have a comment from Felix Matutu. He says, I also think COVID-19 pandemic brought positive effects to the beekeeping industry in that it increased the demand for honey and bee products. That's a very interesting perspective, and I also think that's very true, Mr. Matutu. And we've definitely experienced that firsthand with people with the demand for honey and bee products also increasing because of the pandemic. We have a question from Ken, Zimbabwe. Are there specific areas where you can't recommend people to do apiculture? How many harvests can I get per year? Any one of the panelists who's free to take the question?
There are quite a number of areas where you can put beehives or start a beekeeping industry there because of flora and because of frequent field fire, lack of enough water. For a successful beekeeping industry, you need enough flora. And I wouldn't also recommend it to put beehives in some commercial farms because they use a lot of pesticides, and these pesticides kill bees, and you can also get some traces of pesticides in honey. So definitely there is a need to find out which are the most ideal places to start the beekeeping industry, but not for me commercial farms. And in any case, some people in say overseas, they want organic honey. They don't want honey that is produced within farms. Use pesticides.
Thank you so much for that insight, Prof. We have a comment again from Ken, Zimbabwe. They're asking, as a country, do we export honey? If so, how much is our policy environment conducive for investment in honey production?
Hi, it's Jackie again. We, as a country, there has been some exports by individual companies, but unfortunately, because we haven't had a proper data collection for the apiculture sector, most of it is really thumb-sucking in terms of exports, what has left Zimbabwe. Our policies, yes, there is room for investment in honey production, and there is a lot of opportunities, especially in the value add. If, for instance, we look at things like candles, things like propolis, which is much sought after globally for various pharmaceutical uses. So yes, there is an opportunity, and it's just our sector needs a lot of, I would say, reorganization for us to get the full benefit of what's out there for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mem Goe. Our last question goes to Mr. Patson. You mentioned that apiculture is male dominated. My question is, how then can we involve more women and young people in the industry?
Okay, thank you. I think one of the ways which I've talked about was the slight increase in terms of women participation because of the technology. If we are using the beehives or types of equipment that is user-friendly to women, and we also demystify the fears around being stung and everything, we will be able to bring more women on board. And I think with this slow support that is coming through the various projects, we can also even increase awareness to the women in terms of advocating for more women participation and also providing some forms of support in terms of financial support, in terms of input support for beekeeping as a women project. I think that could be some of the ways that can support women participation, in addition to training and linking them to markets.
Thank you so much, Mr. Makwira Miti, for that submission. I think we've had a really extensive discussion and we really covered quite a lot today. I'll give the floor back to Shamiso.
It has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful event. On behalf of the organization Environmental Buddies Zimbabwe and our partners, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all our panelists for being part of the World Bee Day Zimbabwe 2022. Thank you. A wide round of applause and thank you to all our participants who even made this event a memorable one. Thank you all. Let us protect our pollinators. But the question is, how do we celebrate World Bee Day around the world? Number one, growing nectar plants that do not require special chemicals to grow. Number two, get to know the local beekeepers and learn from them about the craft of beekeeping. Number three, buy, prepare, eat honey or foods that containing honey. Lastly, read and learn about bees and other pollinators and how we can stop their extinction. Once again, I say thank you.
Thank you so much, Shamiso, for that. Feel free to exchange your contacts in the chat, dear colleagues, so that those that need to get in touch can do so. It has been a really wonderful session. I will not say anything further. Thank you so much, colleagues. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Have a great day. We've learned
Happy
a lot.
World Bee Day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.